And there I was. I was the girl from Suits.
Suffer the little children, and I'll exploit them. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Lilibut Dumbarton, a poster on the subreddit Saint This One's Wife, they use a full name, as you know, I do not, provided a compilation of photographs which basically showed various instances of this one's wife with children in crisis where she was photographed with them. It's appropriate to credit Lilibut Dumbarton as the poster who generated that, and it provides me with an excellent opportunity to explain more about this one's wife's narcissism in relation to that. You will see the various photographs as they cruise across the screen as I speak to you. Again, those have been selected by Lilibut Dumbarton. And for instance, it shows back in May 2023, where this one's wife was pictured with children from the Santa Barbara Troubled Youth Group. Then in September 2021, there was the notorious Bouncing Berry of Harlem, or Chairman Mao does New York, as she read to a number of homeless children in New York, boring them with her book, as Harry also sat on the floor and was down with the kids. There was the Trebe Café Dusseldorf for homeless women and children, where she was photographed. Project Healthy Minds panel for parents whose children had committed suicide, as she then exploited the deaths of children and talked about how wonderful it was to be a mother to parents who'd lost their children. There was the Marcy Lab School in Brooklyn. The majority there were impoverished children. A children's hospital in Los Angeles in March 2023. The Lightway Academy in Nigeria earlier this year. Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, where, as the ghoul of Uvalde, she turned up to exploit the tragic deaths of numerous children who had been gunned down. And there are other examples that Lilibut Dumbarton has identified. Each of these visits was undertaken in a private capacity, i.e., she was not doing them as a working member of the royal family. And yet, she had to ensure that all of these visits were publicised. This enables me to break down several facets of her narcissism in action. The first is this. As we have seen with this one's wife, where there is tragedy, she smells opportunity. She swoops in, the ghoul that she is, with rictus grin fixed upon her face, positioning herself at the centre of matters, to have a photograph taken to demonstrate that she cares. Now we know that because she is a narcissist, she is utterly devoid of emotional empathy. But what she does have is cognitive empathy, or false empathy. This doesn't always work especially well, but in certain instances it enables her to look like she cares, to place an arm on a sick child, to smile with supposed compassion for an individual who is in difficult circumstances, to say certain things that make it look like she cares about these individuals. This is simply done by her narcissism to control these individuals through false compassion and to manage her facade so she can say to the world, "Look at me. I am a living saint. See how I care for the suffering children, that I bring such joy into their lives as a consequence of appearing at their school, or at their memorial, or at their hospital. See how I come with stale sandwiches and a boring bug, bringing sunshine into the lives of those that are less fortunate than me, and I remind them of that fact as I appear wearing expensive clothing and jewellery, just to reinforce the point that my cognitive empathy isn't that good because I once again failed to read the room." Thus, Attending these events is entirely self-serving. If you were to put that to this one's wife, she would reject it, because her narcissism will not allow her to understand the real reason that she does it. This is why she's an unaware narcissist. She does not know that she does these things to control people, to draw fuel from them, to access the residual benefit of facade management. She honestly thinks that she cares. But it's all opportunity. The fact is that what she does is superficial. Does she ever really roll her sleeves up and get stuck in and do the meaningful work? No, she might prepare some sandwiches so it looks good for Meghan Markle to photograph it. Or she might watch some children dance and look to be happy because it's good for Meghan Markle to take a photograph. The fact is that if she was genuine about this work, she would do it quietly, discreetly, behind the scenes. Remember, these have all been undertaken in a private capacity. Therefore, why not keep it private? After all, this is the woman that cried out for privacy. The reason that she doesn't do it privately, of course, is this. Her narcissism taps her on the shoulder and says, if you do these things privately, we won't get as much fuel. If you do these things privately, we're not going to be able to manage the facade. So you need to ensure, like you do with so much of your life, that it's broadcast and reported on. Therefore, all of these supposed acts of charity, we need to ensure that the world witnesses them, so that as many people as possible see them and go, isn't she wonderful? Thus, gaining control over those people, receiving lots of fuel from those people, and the provision of the residual benefit of you managing your facade. Private is no good. Public is best. Private doesn't give us what we need vis-a-vis the prime aims. Public does. Accordingly, these visits are simply photo opportunities, and the photo opportunity is the road that takes her to the final destination of the prime aims, of control, of fuel, of that residual benefit. The fact that she can't do these things privately is wholly indicative and driven by her narcissism. I often give you the example of the late George Michael, who was an empathic individual, donated to charity, and didn't tell people about what he did. It only came out after his death. On one occasion, he was helping out at a soup kitchen, and there was another celebrity, Richard Osman, and in the course of that, George Michael said to Richard Osman, please don't tell anybody that I do this. He didn't do it because he wanted the recognition. He did it because he cared. And that is the difference. This one's wife thinks that she cares, and she doesn't. Indeed, it shows the cynical nature of her narcissism, that she will take the suffering of children, whether they're in financial difficulties, whether they're impoverished, whether they're starving, whether they have grieving relatives as a consequence of their suicide or massacre at the wrong end of the barrel of a gun. It doesn't matter, because for the unscrupulous self-serving narcissist that is this one's wife, these are opportunities to control, opportunities to draw in that necessary fuel, opportunities to say to the world, hey, I care. Why? Because I've had my photograph taken with children that are suffering in some way. There. That disproves that I'm a narcissist. See? All you haters can shut up now, for I have had my photograph taken with some homeless children, so that shows that I care. If the cameras were not there, this one's wife wouldn't engage in it, because it would serve no purpose to her. She only attends these events to make herself look good. Otherwise, she cannot tolerate them. She can't stand the pause. They remind her of weakness, something that she strives to get away from. She doesn't want to be associated with homeless people, unsuccessful people, impoverished people, grieving people. That places too great a demand upon her, but she will be associated with them for the purposes of making her look good, demonstrating that wherever there is suffering, the mid-range narcissist that is this one's wife will swoop in and exploit them for the purposes of the prime aims. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.